All right. So we're back. We're back for like a part two. So your music career just took us off into this whole different direction, and it was totally unplanned. And that's why I love doing the podcast, because anything can happen. So I really like. So I wanted to touch base, and we talked a little bit about it just previously. That I've noticed that you are a trained ballet dancer.
Mm-hmm.
So tell us how did that all come about? Trying to fit it into touring in an orchestra and being on TV and meeting Sir and John and studying, and how do you fit it all this into
Well, I was one of these really annoying kind of kids that was like, I want to do everything and I want to be brilliant at everything.
Right.
So not much to ask for, God help my parents, but it was a case where, like the violin or like music or anything really that I put my mind to, I was like, I want to do that. So
Yes.
I think ballet was one of them where I kind of just said, no, I want to do this. And I also had my own ideas of how I wanted to do it. So it was kind of, I think it fed into that whole self-expression that I just had a lot to say and I didn't quite know how to say it. So I was kind of, doing that with ballet or with gymnastics as well, or swimming, there was all of this kind of stuff. I was just a very competitive person, and I think I wanted to just, I was like a balloon that just wanted to give out as much air as possible, to kind of just let that off and have my voice heard. So which in a way kind of obviously has stood to me, because with the music, and I mean it's all intertwined, like what we had said, that some people are amazing in terms of their mindset with numbers or with logic or with computers, or whereas other people are a little bit more out there and they just want to kind of be flamboyant and be like, oh, look at me. And I was just one of those really annoying people being like, oh, look who I am, hello.
Yeah, it's very interesting. You were saying just before about trying to be different with the ballet. My sister, when she first started, I just assumed it was going to be classical ballet, but she did jazz ballet.
That's so cool.
Took up a lot of your time, studied the music, doing ballet. So my main purpose and the reason for the podcast was going to be not because of your musical talent and musical ability, but it was you're also an actor. It's hard to believe with where do you fit this? I'm very, very interested to find out how you fit acting into all this. And like you were saying, you're very artistic, so all different fields. So how did this all start? If it wasn't music, then where did this start? Like acting and being on stage, like obviously performing, but playing an instrument and going out and acting is very different. Or maybe it isn't. It's still learning something and trying to remember it and trying to play it right. But it is a different sort of way to do it. But so how does this all swing into your sort of career? Where did it all start?
I suppose one of the things with being that prodigal child in terms of, doing things and being really good at stuff, I suppose there was an element of me wanting to escape or to kind of not think about music. So when I had my time off, again, when I was practicing or when I was doing, studies or school or whatever, there was an element where I suppose as a child, I kind of wanted to have my playtime or have my whatever. And one of the things I used to turn to was film and watching movies. So the idea was, again, to look at these characters and to pretend to be them or to pretend to be in their world. And that was my escapism, where I could kind of take a break from music or take a break from whatever was going on, because there was bullying, of course, because I was slightly different as a child and I was doing this and that and the other, and I was, as kids tend to be. So
can I just ask, how did you deal with that? I mean, we all go through it, so how did you deal with that? Did you have just friends in music? and you know, like you said before, like that was the bubble, that was the people that you hung out with, or you know.
I mean, I suppose school was the hardest thing because, like that, the people who aren't in that environment or don't understand the pressures or the commitment or everything that's attached with being good at what you do. All they see is me skipping school, or you know, the teacher announcing that I've won some other prize or whatever, you know. So I mean, it was an absolute, you know, kind of course people are going to be jealous. So there was a lot, and I suppose that was a little bit tricky because, you know, I didn't understand why people didn't like me. I didn't understand what I had done wrong.
Yes,
you know, it wasn't like I was doing it on purpose. It's just what I was doing, you know. And I suppose there was a few years where that got really bad. I suppose I was quite an intense person as a child. I always related better to people who were slightly older than me. And I kind of latched on to kind of people who I felt would be better for me to be able to kind of communicate with. So I kind of distanced myself. I kind of kept to myself. I never really kind of was like, I was quite tough in terms of, I never used to show my emotions in terms of, you know, these people getting to me. You know, I wouldn't just kind of, you know, so I would never tell on them, or I'd never say to my mom, oh, I'm being bullied or whatever. I kept it in, you know, which, you know, probably wasn't the best thing to do. But I think kind of like my attitude mostly in life was that, you know, you just have to deal with it and you have to find out the way that you can get through it. And I think secondary school, going into that, was more, I kind of flipped that and I said, I'm not going to let people do this to me. So I kind of learned very quickly not to kind of mention that I was doing this or that. Now, it was still obvious, you know, but also kind of, I used to, if people were being bullied, I'd stand up for them. And I'd say, don't you dare, you know, treat that person like that. So I kind of turned it, you know, to kind of my strength. And from that, I was able to make some amazing friends. Like with music people, it's very hard to be their friend, because one minute, and actually it's the same with acting in a way, you know, in one way you are friends because you're all thrown into the same kind of bucket, but at the same time you're being pitched against each other, or you're competing constantly, and it's very hard to kind of separate the two and say, well, it's not personal, you know.
Yes. And tell me, so let's go back to way at the back. So when did you start sort of doing acting, sort of coaching? Is that how you say, training?
Training, yeah. So when I had done the masters in music, I was teaching, and I kind of, there was a point in my life where things got a little bit dark. Right. And I made the decision that I needed to change something. And one of those things was unfortunately going to be music, because I felt that there was a lot that I wanted to do in my life. And I felt I had spent a lot of time focusing completely on one thing. Yes. So I kind of very brazenly turned to my parents one day and said, I'm done. I want to be an actor.
Right. And how did that go? How did that go down?
I think there was a bit of a, sorry, what?
Shock?
Yeah. But in fairness to them, they were very supportive, and they said, okay, well, where has this come from? And like, how are you going to do this? Yes. You know, and I said, well, I need to work from the bottom up, which was something that was very new to me, because I mean, music was always something I was good at. It was always the thing I turned to. So, I mean, I had no connections in terms of the acting world whatsoever, and I was coming into it at the age of 25. Right. So I was old in terms of university. I was, you know, I wasn't kind of a spring chicken, you know, I was kind of mid-20s. I was still, you know, okay in terms of, you know, looks and kind of presence, and I was young enough to kind of learn some stuff. So, but I very, very passionately wanted to get involved in acting, because again, it was coming back to that childhood escapism of wanting to be like that, or wanting to be someone like that for someone else. Yes. So I did a lot of research. I very quickly, because I knew I was running out of time, learned where I needed to go or how I needed to do this, or where, you know, I needed to start and who I needed to know, because as you know, in acting, it's all about
Definitely.
connections. It's all about
Yes.
who you know and when you know them, and the right timing as well.
Yes.
So I got straight into doing the Irish Film Academy, which was Rachel Sarah Murphy, who was amazing. I mean, she kind of was the first kind of tutor in terms of that. And through that, I met some people. I did Terry McMahon. I did his course. He was terrifyingly brilliant. You know, he kind of knocked some serious sense into me in terms of the reality of life.
That's an
As
interesting
an
way
actor.
that's an interesting way to describe a person.
Oh, he is. He's an absolute, you know, weapon when it comes to it. But you know, he says it straight, because you know, within acting, it can be so flowery and so kind of, oh, you know, you'd be great, but you sometimes need someone to go, right, here's the facts.
Yeah, you're not.
You know, you're not going to be in Hollywood in a year, you know. So, and that was Terry, you know, and he was amazing. He really did. And then there was Louise Kiley. I did her course as well, and she's a big casting director in Ireland. So there was a lot of that foundation I did very quickly. And then in my own head, I suppose I'd also figured the best experience you're going to get is through doing movies, through actually getting into it. So
now with your music, you said that you picked it up fairly easy, and like now with acting and remembering your lines, was this something that come easy to you as well, or was this something that you really had to work hard at?
I suppose there was a lot of kind of similarities in terms of applying yourself and your motivation and your commitment, because with that kind of almost stamina and kind of focus that you have growing up practicing whatever amount of hours a day, you still carried that forward in terms of your memory. So I mean, my memory is incredible. So in terms of learning lines, in terms of learning concertos or pieces or whatever, that was kind of cool, because I was like, oh, I can, you know, read a page and have it in 2 minutes, you know, that's fine. But the harder side of things was not to hide behind the instrument, because for me, I was always using an instrument, so I never actually had to focus on myself. So it was all of a sudden kind of being put in a situation where there is nobody else but you, you know, and suddenly someone is criticizing you personally, as opposed to the violin or the piano or what you're projecting through that, you know. So it was like, well, actually, you know, you're not opening your mouth wide enough, or you're using your eyebrows too much, or you're not standing up straight, or, you know, this and this. And I'm kind of going, oh my God, like, you know, you know, you're suddenly kind of going, Jesus, you know, I thought about it like that, you know, because I wasn't exactly a girly girl. I was kind of like, whatever, you know. So, you know, it was like you have to be presentable, or suddenly, you know, you kind of have to look a certain way or act a certain way or whatever. And I was like, oh God, you know, really? So, but it was, I mean, it was a very different kind of a thing, but there was a lot of similarities within the two.
And it says here, and I don't think we talked about it before, Sound of Music. I've just written down here, Sound of Music. Was that a play, or was that actual? It
was the musical I did in school, actually, my very last year in school. And there was a big kind of a whether or not I would be able to fit in the fact that I was touring, the fact that I had the leaving cert, and then do a musical as well. Because I did a bit of singing. I was fairly decent at singing. So the Sound of Music I auditioned for as kind of the school play, and they offered me the Mother Abbess, which was the kind of the operatic side of things.
Right.
And I remember kind of like thinking, oh my God, how am I going to do this? You know, because, you know, and I mean, they took the, like, serious musical schools, you know, they take this stuff seriously. It's not kind of, you just turn up and be like, I'll sing a song, you know. This was proper stuff, you know, they wanted full commitment, you know. So I was like, geez, you know. But I kind of, I had to do it, because it was a little bit of a taster for acting, and I was like, I need to, you know. So when I was doing this musical, everyone was saying, oh, you know, she's going to London and she's doing a big degree, and, you know, she's going to the top school, and everyone thought it was for singing, because they saw me doing the musical, and they were like, oh, she's going to do musical theatre, and I was like, actually, no, it's not.
You said, yeah, of course, it was me singing. Yeah, come on.
Yeah.
Wow. So singing, very talented girl. I'm learning lots very, very quickly. So let's go forward to, so you're doing all these training and going into people that are telling you yes, no, this is not going to happen. So was it Dublin where you got your first break? Or did you have to sort of travel? How does it all work? Tell me.
So it's kind of like a ladder system. You start from the bottom up. There's no skipping the queue, and particularly when you're 25 and kind of new to everything and nobody knows you and you're kind of trying to prove a point.
You're the girl from X Factor, right? Yeah. Oh, wait, come on. No?
Yeah, I should have thrown that my CV. Yeah. Like, I'm already up there.
Don't you know me? I know John.
So I've been doing kind of a few bits and bobs in terms of kind of student films, and then along came.
What was the first one you ever did? I didn't write. Maybe 2014, was it?
Jesus. 13, I think. 13, yeah. It was actually a student film, and I remember because I was really impressed with the fact that I booked a gig that I was being paid for, and I was like, oh,
right,
this is my first role, and I was really eager to press, and it was oh god.
So I say here that so it says here that you did a short film, Disappear, 2014. You played Andrea, and then also in 2014. You made an appearance on The Speechless, a TV movie, 2014 as well.
Yeah, so The Speechless was kind of one of the first more serious things. It wasn't which I will talk about, but The Speechless was one of them that we kind of had gone in to do a TV series, and I had auditioned, and there was a lot going on with that, and I was auditioning for someone who was older as well, which was kind of the challenge in itself. But it's kind of funny because a lot of the roles I tend to go for are older, which I mean just seems to be the way it is. Even though I don't look my age, which I'll totally say. But The Speechless was one of those where I was really nervous, and I was sitting there, and there was it was kind of a detective series thing, and it was kind of like a murder mystery, that kind of Agatha Christie thing, and I was this really dodgy kind of doctor, and this detective was interviewing me, and I was sitting in this chair, and there were so many lines, and I was kind of going, oh my god, I'm gonna like massively screw this up, and I was shaking. I was actually, because one of the things they taught us in acting class is if you're nervous with something, apply your energy to something else apart from what you're doing. So the idea for me was that I used to kind of clasp my hands and I kind of hide it, like, and then be as cool as breeze and be like, yeah, I totally have this. But I was shaking like a leaf, and we got through it, and they were like, wow, that's so good. You did really well. It was all in one take as well. So I was like, oh, I can actually breathe. And so like, are you nervous? And I was like, I'm terrified. I was like, I didn't want to say this, but this was actually my first gig that I booked. And they were like, oh my God, like, well, we didn't know that, Wow, so that was kind of the first thing. And then the big thing for me was Camouflage, which was based on a book by Natasha White. And that was about a female serial killer. And there was a big casting. It was in Dublin, and they had loads of rounds, and they had loads of interest. And I hadn't really heard about it, to be honest. I had done some other smaller kind of like Disappear. I'd done smaller kind of things. I'd done kind of a bit of other stuff, and the writer actually contacted me and said, we happened to see your profile, and would you be interested in auditioning? And of course, I was kind of going, because normally I would do a lot of research into people, or that kind of stuff. And I was kind of caught off guard, and I was like, oh my God. I was like, yeah, sure. And she was like, well, can you come in like 2 days? And I was like, oh, okay, yeah, sure, okay. So I ran to Dundrum Shopping Centre, and I bought her book because I was thinking, I need to read this book in 2 days. Like, I have 2 days to know what this is about. And I was instantly, it was kind of one of those things where I read the book and I was like, I have to play this girl. She is unbelievable. Sophie was her name, and she was this kind of mid-20s girl, and she was a serial killer, and I mean, if you can read the book, it's unbelievable. Like, she's such a talented writer. So they brought me in for the audition, and of course I was all happy with myself, going, oh yeah, I know all the story, and I read your book, and all this kind of stuff. I mean, joining a long line of people who were auditioning for this role. And they did a couple of different things in terms of the audition, got me to read some lines and all this kind of stuff. And the director and the producer was there, and it was a serious audition. I could feel, you could just feel that it was a big deal. So kind of walked out, and then I was like, there's not a chance, I mean, Jesus, I'm looking at all these like other people who seem to know what they're doing. And the director contacted me, I think it was a day or two later, and of course you're sitting there and you're sick, and you can't eat or sleep or drink or do anything, because you're sitting there going, oh my God, I haven't heard, and you're checking your emails every 10 seconds, like, have I heard anything? And he contacted me, and he said, we're very interested, are you free to meet up for a coffee? And I was going, oh my God,
no, I can't do it.
They're gonna like drop me like a hot stone and be like, sorry, but you're not, And I met up with them in the Bewleys and not Ballsbridge, in Leopardstown. And Natasha was there. Of course, I'm sitting there going, hello, and at the time I was having a cigarette, and she happened to have a cigarette. So I was sitting there, and she was like, you okay? And I was like, yeah, I'm fine. I just want this meeting done. And she was like, oh, you'll be fine. Just chill, And that was the point where they said, we'd love you to be our Sophie. And I was like, oh my God. And then kind of went from one thing to the other. And that was an amazing project. That was kind of the turning point where I went, I can actually do this.
Here we go. Here we go. The next path. So the next, it says here, and like this is like I don't know who wrote it, maybe a manager or agent, but they said one of the big like TV series was the Northsiders. You played Celine in this one. Was it just one episode?
The Northsiders, no, we actually filmed, 5 or 6. The Northsiders was a really interesting project because that kind of came kind of early enough, but later in terms of what I've been doing. So I kind of got my confidence and a little bit more ego in terms of, I'm kind of cool and stuff. So I'm trying to think, it was actually the director of Disappeared, Robert O'Mara, who contacted me about Northsiders and said, look, there's this really talented writer, Paul Murphy, who's written this TV series. It's very different to what you normally do, because this girl is very kind of, it's set around kind of the proper Dublin area. And kind of shows the rough side of kind of life there. So, but he was like, I think you should meet Paul and just have a chat and see what you think. So we met up outside the Twisted Pepper, which was it's no longer there anymore, but it was in Abbey Street, and and they gave me the script, and I had a chat with Paul, and then went home and read the script, and similarly was like, I have to play Celine. I kind of read a script and I know very quickly whether or not it's something I think I can add to or not add to, because sometimes you can be cast in something and really it's not right for you. You have to fit, and particularly with a TV series, like a soap, like Coronation Street, like anything, you have to fit with everyone else that you're working with. So came back to Paul a week later and I said, this is what I think Celine is, and I think, I definitely think I could give you what you're looking for. And she was an amazing character, because she was also gay, and she kind of was a little bit more out there in terms of her morals. Whereas it's so funny about Dublin. In some ways they're very forward thinking, but in other ways they're still that kind of judgmental Catholic kind of rigidness to them, so she was kind of a more kind of woman before her time, and he absolutely gave me the freedom to be able to play her like that. And I loved Northsiders. It was a real Irish kind of production.
And you know what? I don't know too much about it, but for our Australian fans who may not know, in terms of popularity, is this one of the big ones?
It's got a lot of potential. I know, like a lot of things, is kind of trial and error, and I think they would love to get it back up and running. I mean, it did do the season, and it did well, but I think if we got a chance to revisit it, we definitely would.
Oh, is this a calling for 2021?
Absolutely, yeah.
Yes.
Oh, there's a serious thing there, yeah. Serious script.
So, yeah, it says here that you've done over 30 different short films and appearances on movies, TV series. We could go through them. Captured, Scars, An Ode to Kino. Just the list just goes on and on and on. So instead of me going through all these ones, I want to ask you, what are some of the short films in your career that are sort of stood out instead of some of the others?
Yeah, there's two, because a lot of people would ask me the question, what is your favorite project that you worked on? And I mean, separate to Camouflage, because that's always my baby in terms of kind of my big kind of first break.
Yes. And I mean, like you said, you did so much work, before that preparation. So
yeah, it was lovely to apply it, and that was the first role I really properly got to kind of, explore, because it was so out there, it was so dangerous. I mean, I went full method as well. I was a complete psycho coming off that. They even had
did you ever think that you would do something like that, but like if with your terms of what movies that you like in general? We'll talk about that later. But did you ever think, like, a couple of years before, that this was something that you were going to do, like play like the role, play this sort of role?
I think there was always a dangerous streak there. I just don't think I ever thought I'd get the opportunity to explore that in a safe environment.
Yes.
So I think with a lot of the training that I had done, I learned how to kind of control and shape my delivery in terms of that. So, I mean, I wouldn't have completely ruled it out. It wasn't as shocking because I was a little bit strange as a kid. Yes. So it was more kind of because there would be a lot of kind of layers to this onion, if you want to say. So I think that was very much a case where, as I said, when I read the book, I went, that's it. Me and Sophie are like this now. I mean, the only small difference that she likes butchering people to death and, cutting every limb off and then burying the bodies, but that's not something I'm into. But in terms of separate to that, I mean, there's actually a lot of kind of common interests.
I'll be good, Cristina. I'll be good to you. Okay, just be gentle, all right? Yeah.
But she was brilliant. And in fairness, I mean, they did, as I said, they had a psychologist or psychotherapist on set, Veronica. Hi, Veronica. And just in case I got a little bit too involved in kind of what I was doing, that I could just kind of rein it back and then talk to her. And because there was one scenario where we had finished kind of filming, we were on a break, and of course I'm in this bath and there's blood everywhere, and I've just hacked up this body and I'm covered in blood. I'm in this white kind of a t-shirt, and I'm in this absolute psycho kind of mindset. And they were like, okay, we're going to take like 15 if you want to, get, a drink, or you want to, get a sandwich or whatever. And I was like, okay. So didn't think twice about it. So went out as dressed, didn't, I just thought it was a break. Because the other thing was we were filming in a hotel, and you're so used to being an actor on set that you don't have to worry about outside folk looking at me. Yes. And I wanted to go down for to get a thing from the Coke machine. So I got in the lift, and I didn't think twice about it. I was covered in blood. I had this white thing on, and of course I'm in this public lift in a really salubrious hotel, on my own.
Oh dear.
We were on like the top floor as well because we were filming this penthouse, and I think the elevator stopped at the next floor, and this elderly couple got in, and I was just kind of standing there, do. I hadn't even looked in the mirror. I was kind of going through my lines for the next part, and I was thinking about this, and I swear to God, the blood drained from their faces when they saw me. They were like, you know, and they just kind of very quickly backed out of the elevator, and they were like, you know, and I was kind of, because I was kind of looking, going, what's wrong with them? And have I something on my face? And of course, then I caught myself in the mirror, and I was like, oh, okay,
right.
sorry, I'm so sorry. We're filming. It's not. I'm actually fine. Thanks for asking. You know, but yeah, there was a few things like that, but that was Camouflage, yeah. But sorry, to go back to your questions, we always are deviating. Two of the films, one in particular called, and I will give the guys a shout out, Behind Closed Doors.
Yes.
This Karen, and it's funny with the characters I play, they're people to me. I don't know what it is, but I just embrace that person, and I kind of, you know, and this particular character was very important to kind of tell the story. She had a very damaged background. She was kind of living or growing up with her brother, who the two of them had been abused as children. So
sorry, Cristina. Just before you go into it, like, why is it short film? What is the difference between short film and different film? Is it the length of the film, or is it just, I don't know?
Yeah, it's the length and it's the art, I suppose, that it's written. So within a film, there's kind of the beginning, middle, and end. And if you're aiming to do a feature film, obviously that's stretched out a lot more in terms of the plots, in terms of learning about the characters and where they come from. Whereas a short film, all of that's kind of compressed in a much shorter space. Sometimes a short film will kind of deliberately use the fact that there's less time to kind of tell the story and to create a shorter impact. Yes. Whereas a longer film can be used in a more documentary kind of style. So it's mainly to do with length. Yeah. Right.
So sorry, continue about Behind Closed Doors. Came out 2018.
So Karen, so the director contacted me, Stephen Clark Dunn contacted me, and John Sweeney, the writer, again, and said, we've actually written this role for you.
Wow. Movie. That's amazing. Like,
yeah, I thought that I mean, that was, I don't know if that was deliberately said to try and get me on board.
Well, yeah, there you go.
Like, well, you know.
Very polite.
They gave me the script, and of course I read the script, and like any of the movies that I got on with this particular script, I was like, wow. I mean, it was very dark. It was very real. There was so many topics that needed to be highlighted. And this person it was almost like this woman I wanted to help, I wanted to save. So I got back in touch instantly, and I said, Jesus, guys, I'm in. I don't care how you did this. I'm in. I have to be part of this. So it was a very difficult role because she had a lot going on in terms of drug addiction, and she was also kind of a prostitute, and she was dealing with, because the film, without giving spoilers, is kind of told through the brother and the sister going through to therapy, and they're talking about their kind of childhood, and they're talking about their upbringing, and also then why they are where they are in their lives. But I think it was a mixture of who was involved and how it was shot. It was so intimate and so personal, and there was so much space and kind of support that it just left such an impact. And then, like anything, you're kind of praying that, you know, it's going to look the way that it felt to film, and also to do well for these people, because they've put so much energy and love and time into it. And I remember watching it for the first time, and I was like, wow, you know, because it's kind of a telltale sign when because I mean, like most actors, most people that you'll meet, they hate watching themselves on screen.
Yes, I was about to ask you that question.
Yeah, I hate it. I sit there and I'm cringing. I'm like, oh my God, you know, like I
should have done that right. I should have done that better.
No, I can't even have popcorn in the cinema when I'm looking at it. I'm kind of going, I don't know what it is, you know. But the telltale sign is if you forget about that, and you're not looking at yourself, you're looking at this film as a film. And that was one of the projects that I kind of came off, and I was like, yeah, it's special. And it was Behind Closed Doors. Yeah.
Now, in terms of management as well, I'm very interested in this because, I've I've heard some very bad stories. So did you get management very, very quickly? Do you do it yourself? How does it all work? Management, agent? Tell me how you deal with it.
I mean, a lot of people do actually ask me in terms of how have I gotten the projects that I've got. And I can tell you every single project that I've done, I got myself.
Wow.
Yeah.
It must be a good, like you can, you don't have to spend all this money, percentages on an agent and.
I think it's more about being clever and knowing,
Right.
doing your homework. I mean, that's one of the big
Yeah.
things, like, because networking, getting in touch with people, collaborating, like nothing is for free. And, I think if you're able to, kind of not expect anything, because a lot of actors, when they come out of acting school, they just kind of think, oh, I'll be signed by the top agents and then I'll be in Hollywood and be on these big checks. Forget it. That is not what happens. It's about doing really, really hard work. And that was something I knew that I needed to build from the beginning. So it was a matter of kind of figuring out, going to different film festivals, watching different films, going, asking people that you would have known, who did you work with that you were impressed with, collaborating on the right projects, because a lot of people will just take anything that goes, and then it can kind of damage your prospects of kind of being taken seriously in a way. So you really have to be a business person as well as anything to kind of understand how to kind of not sell yourself, because that's the wrong word. I think it's more kind of just use what's available out there, because if you think about it logically, it's like any profession.
That's
you
right.
need
Common
to know where
sense.
you fit in. So it's
That's great to hear, and I hope in the future more actors and actresses do that. I mean, I just think it's I mean, you're not relying on other people to you sit there waiting. Why isn't this person getting me a job? Well, why don't you do it?
Do it yourself. You do.
Yeah.
You have to. I mean, there is
Get
a
out
matter
there.
of looks. There is a matter of who you know, and then if you have the luxury of whatever. But ultimately, I think I have a lot more respect for people who will say, look, I don't know how to do this, and I don't know how it works. But they're open to learning, or they're open to kind of growing, because at the end of the day, we're put on this planet to learn. There's no point in us just sitting comfortably.
That's it. Yeah, exactly right. I'm very much the same. So let's talk about your two recent films. You said that they started last year, or maybe the year before. Zenith Protocol and Follow the Dead.
Yeah.
So let's talk about this, and then after that, let's talk about projects for next year or in the future.
So, so the Zenith Protocol was the Opelski brothers. Such cool guys, Polish, badass, but really easygoing. They're such lovely guys, and I think I don't know how they got in touch. Was it last year? I think it was last year. God, I mean, it's amazing how this year has just gone.
Yeah, that's right.
Last year. They got in touch, and they were so kind of cool. They were like, hey, want to be in our movie? And I was like, can you tell me a bit about it? And they were like, oh, well, it's a lot of action, guns, fighting, explosions. Basically, you'd be this like cool CIA agent. How do you feel about it? And I was like, well, do you have a script? And they were like, oh yeah, but like, are you interested? It was their approach that I was like, this is mad. It's not kind of the formal like, here's your script and have a think about it and get back to us. It was like, hey, want to be in a movie? And I was like, So I went to their house to kind of read the script and have a chat with them, and they were just so cool. Like they just sat there and they were having a non-virgin cocktail, and they're kind of sitting around and they're like, so what do you think of the script? And if you're interested, that's cool. And I was like, you're so cool. I can't not be involved in what you're doing.
Yes.
So I got.
They weren't Irish, were they?
No,
you said
Polish.
Polish. Yeah, but I was just saying about the very laid back attitude. So.
Yeah, I mean they're living in Ireland, but they're just so cool, and they're identical as well. They're identical twins. So you're kind of it took me ages to figure out who I was talking to, because I have a conversation with one of them and then forget that it's them that I've talked to. So it was, but they were so cool, and we had so much fun on that shoot. And like that, the character was amazing. I got to work with Joe as well. It was just one of those things that kind of came about very quickly, and they got in touch recently to say that they've pretty much finished what they're doing, and they're looking into kind of releasing it early next year, which I think is brilliant, because I've seen some of the footage, and they didn't spare any expense. They've got helicopters, they've got explosive stuff, they've got fast cars, sexy women. Like, it's the whole thing is just, it's deadly. I can't wait to see it, and I was in a small part of it, So the Zenith Protocol, I'm looking forward to that.
And is there a release date for that?
Well, I mean, not at the moment, because
we're running out of time.
Yeah, I mean, it's up in the air in terms of kind of everything. Like with COVID, everyth's just suddenly gone, well, hang on a sec, like there's James Bond, and he's had to kind of put off his movie for a while. So I kind of think, well, if we have to hold off for a little bit, then But I think from what they say, it's going to be early next year.
Okay. And the other one, Follow the Dead.
Follow the Dead.
Can you tell us about that?
Oh God, Follow the Dead is probably one of my favorites in terms of what I've been involved in. More so because of, again, the people that I was working with, and again, I had been approached with this script by Adam William Cahill, the director. I'd worked with Tyg Devery on a few different projects, so me and Tyg are really good friends, and he's an amazing actor. So he had mentioned to Adam, who was casting for Follow the Dead, that I think Chris would be perfect for this. So Adam emailed me, and I was in Blanchardstown Shopping Centre at the time, and he kind of said, here's the script, I'd love you to take a look at it. See how you feel. We'd be honoured to have you on, the movie. And I kind of sat there because I was intrigued, and I kind of said, oh, I'll just read, because it was on my phone. So I said, I'll read, because I had to go shopping and I had a few things to do. And 2 hours later, I finished reading the script, and I was like, oh my God, I have to. So I actually contacted him there and then, and I said, look, I'm in, I said, there is one character in particular one particular character that I think I could help, which was Kate, who was the kind of, I like to say, protagonist of the film, who's a badass cop, and she's kind of, kills loads of zombies. And I mean, it's such an Irish, homey, warm but slightly unnerving film, because obviously it's the zombie apocalypse, and it's literally this Irish, couldn't get more Irish family, stuck in the middle of Offaly, which is in the middle of nowhere in Ireland. A lot of people don't even know where it is. And all of a sudden these zombies turn up, and they're like, oh my God, what do we do? So that's kind of the setting, and it's got so much humor. It's got so many kind of storylines. It's kind of weirdly parallel to the idea of millennials suddenly been thrown into a pandemic where they have to learn to survive. And it's done really well so far. It was released recently to the Kerry Film Festival, who we won actually Best Feature for, which I thought was deadly.
That's amazing.
So we're a little bit emotional with that, and then we have some other festivals we've been accepted to. So it's the beginning of the journey for that, and then it's a trilogy, so there's 2 more scripts.
Nice.
So that's hopefully in the near future. Yeah.
And speaking of that, congratulations, by the way, on your award. That's amazing. Yeah. So let's talk about that. It's a standard common question, but what does the future hold for Cristina Ryan post-pandemic? Great
things, I hope. I think it's a matter of finding my feet again, because with the pandemic, a lot of projects have been put on hold. A lot of the industry has just been turned upside down, and a lot of
So what does that mean? what do you think that means for the the entertainment industry, especially in Ireland? Is that going to have a backlash, like in terms of having enough money to produce films?
I think like anywhere, to be honest,
Yes,
it's a matter of people trying to learn to find a way around it. I mean, I know there was some rules brought in terms of how you could film and when you could film and where you could film.
Right.
I mean, it's a pain in the ass, so I think the sooner things kind of are made a bit more clear, I think it'll be easier for everyone to kind of get back to work. And, I mean, the one thing that I have to say that the kind of lockdowns have brought is a lot of connecting online. So, in a way, it's forced people to kind of get together or to communicate and say, like, with yourself who contacted me, to be able to meet people and kind of collaborate or, just have a chat, and see where that goes. So I've been doing a lot of that. I've had a lot of kind of scripts sent my way to read. So
that's great.
I think it's a matter of sitting down and then kind of going through my timeline and saying, well, which can I give my time to, or how can I make this work in terms of if it's in the UK or if it's in Europe or the States, or so it's a matter of kind of deciding what's the kind of best way to kind of do them, I suppose.
Yeah, absolutely.
Or get involved.
And sorry, I just wanted to ask to just jog my memory. Is it primarily in Ireland and the UK that you get the major roles? Or have you had to go to Europe? You had to go to the US, Canada, Have you done traveling or primarily just Ireland?
It's been mainly Ireland. I've done a bit in the UK, but I would love to do some work in the States. I think it's quite tricky to
Australia. Come on, we've got the big.
Yeah,
we've got some.
Screw the spider situation. If I can get
the spider,
I'd be on the plane right there and then, I wouldn't have any problem with that.
Spider films, no.
Yeah, oh no, definitely. I think it's kind of again connecting and kind of finding the right way to get seen by the right people. So yeah, no, I mean because the industry is what it is. It's mainly Ireland and England, but Jesus, I wouldn't say no to getting on a plane somewhere.
Down to Australia, on the beach, sit on the beach and do some new film. Yeah, we've got some the studios in I have to cut this bit out. Universal Studios. They're filming all the time, and instead of filming in the US, it's cheaper to fly down here and cheaper, to get like people, actors from Australia to come in and play small parts. So yeah, it's getting bigger and bigger all the time. So yes, well, that's good to hear about the future for you.
Yeah.
So let's talk about social medias and where our listeners can get in contact with you.
Yeah, so Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, if you pop in Cristina Ryan, I should pop up. You can find me on IMDb as well if you want to see some of the work that I've done, or the YouTube has a lot of the trailers or kind of snippets from the work that I've done. And then just a quick plug for the Support COVID-19 group again. If there's anyone who's struggling or finding things a little bit rough, just type that in and you can join the group just for a bit of life and laughter.
Absolutely. Awesome. And so let's put a bow in it here. And to finish off, I don't know if you've listened before, but I just asked a couple of some random questions to get to know you a little bit more. Getting off the topic of music and art. So the top 2 or 3 sort of favorite things. All right. Okay. Sometimes it stumps people. Some are very good. Some are going, oh my God, I can't remember. I can't. Let's try it. Are you ready, Cristina?
I am absolutely. I'm born ready. Go for it.
All right. Born ready. I love that answer. All right. So we talked about music before. And I always like to ask the first question. So tell us who are your top 3 musical artists.
Coldplay, Pink, and probably the Killers.
Wow, I did not expect that. I thought it was going to be like Mozart and the key of E or something like that. Wow, okay, that's cool. And just going off topic again, Killers, I saw them play in Brazil, and I didn't give them the time of day until I saw them play live, and they were just amazing.
Oh,
amazing.
A really good gig, yeah.
Yeah. And like they couldn't show me where to go to the bathroom in Portuguese in Brazil. I'm going, no. But then they could sing. Somebody told me you had a boyfriend. Looked like in clear English, 40,000 Portuguese people. So, so there you go. I guess just to show music is very universal. Mm-hmm. Good answer. That's throwing me off again. So. In terms of you, like in general, what are your top 3 favorite movies? That's very general, but your top 3 favorite movies, just as of today.
As of today, right? Gladiator.
Rusty Russell Crowe.
Only in that movie, but that movie, every single time I watch it, I'm just a mess. I just can't deal. I just physically bleed in every single way. I can't cope. I'm just emotionally leaking. It's amazing. Yes. So, Gladiator, probably The Count of Monte Cristo, actually, the remake. I thought that was an amazing movie.
Interesting.
What else is really top 3? What else did I watch recently? Probably The Hours.
Okay. Yeah. And TV shows, top 3 off the top of your head?
Game of Thrones. Yeah, Game of Thrones. I watched actually The Queen's Gambit recently on Netflix. I thought that was really good. I was really impressed with that. And then probably, what's that one called? It's Norman Bates. It's the one where he's the serial killer. It's got what's her name in it as well? Can't remember. It's the one Norman Bates. Anyway.
Okay. All right. And actors. So obviously actresses as well, but your top 3 favorite actors.
Actors, oh God.
Of today.
Yes. I think Ray Fiennes is a genius. I think he's unbelievable. Meryl, I have to give her a shout out. I think she's just a queen. Gillian Reynolds. Actually, I think she's been amazing lately. Yeah.
Right. Okay. Who is your biggest hero / inspiration?
I've stuck with this person for probably most of my life. I was introduced to her as a person and kind of role model probably in school. She's a writer called Sylvia Plath. American. Now she tragically died at the age of 32. But she was an amazing woman. She was a woman before her time. She had a really tricky life. But her writing is just incredible, and her kind of the way that she kind of expresses herself. Yeah, there's a lot there. So I'd have to say Sylvia Plath.
Sylvia Plath. Wow. I think that's a great way to end the podcast, Cristina. Yeah. Thank you very much for your time. Yeah. I did not think that this was going to go in this direction. I didn't think it would go this long. But wow, you've had an amazing career, and the future is very, very bright. Movies, please start playing music again. And make people happy, but also make you happy as well.